Okay, so sometimes when I make a video, I kind of sit back and go, is this it? Is this like really what I'm going to be spending my time talking about? And will anyone like actually watch? If you're hearing this, the answer is yes, because today we are talking about Zootopia 2. First, a summary of the plot of the movie, then we will look at some of the absolutely unhinged references that this movie makes. So without much further ado, let's get going. 1 week after Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde become partners in the Zootopia Police Department, which is kind of like the whole point of the first movie, their clashing personalities start to become a big problem, and the chief threatens to separate them unless they resolve their differences. But then they kind of ignore all of that, and then during a raid on a smuggling ring, which they kind of do themselves, Judy finds a piece of snakeskin, although snakes have not been seen in Zootopia for years. Reptiles, snakes. She then discovers that a snake may be at the Zootopia Gala, an event hosted by Milton Linksley, whose grandfather Ebenezer founded Zootopia. While infiltrating the gala with Nick, Judy befriends Pobbert, which is the youngest son and the black sheep of the Linksley family. Then also meets Nibbles Maplestick, a conspiracy theorist beaver. Aided by Nibbles, who the ZPD also arrested, Nick flees prison and locates Judy at the Desert Tundra Town weather wall, which is kind of like where all the weather keeps it safe for all the animals in Zootopia. So then her, Judy, Gary, which is a snake that they meet, and Pobbert activate an old clock tower, which they kind of need to activate it so that way they can see the light, which then would kind of find the buried reptile district, assuming that the patent is there. With their crimes exposed, the Linksleys are arrested, while Judy and Nick are exonerated. But also I want to mention here that Pobbert actually kind of like flips on Judy and Nick and tries to like join back in with the Linksley family, but he's like completely ignored and doesn't do very well at, flipping. So the Tundra Town expansion, which is like kind of like a big expansion to Zootopia into Marsh Market, which is where all of the reptiles lived, is canceled, which allows for the reptiles to be fully reintegrated back into the main city. Gary reunites with his family, and Agnes, who was Gary's grandmother, is finally credited as Zootopia's true founder. So as an adult, of course, looking back, this plot actually held my interest better than the first movie. I don't hate the first movie, of course, but this movie I really feel like it made an effort to have like an actually interesting storyline, when in all reality, it really didn't have to. It could have been so much worse and kind of phoned a lot in, and it would have made as much money as it did. And it kind of told an interesting story here, which I find really interesting and kind of cool that they made sure that this was still really interesting. Here's what is absolutely insane though. This movie has some killer Easter eggs in it. Some of them are in your face and some are like actually Easter eggs. And a lot of them are for the adults in the room, and it's really, really cool. So here's just some of them because it's like really cool and there's like a lot of them. There's a giant maze that looks exactly like the one from The Shining, including our villain does that walk that Jack Nicholson does in The Shining, and it's really cool. The Ratatouille rat and the lion in the kitchen are seen during like this whole Zootopia Gala thing that I mentioned earlier. Here's Johnny from The Shining is also referenced by Nibbles Maplestick. Then there's Silence of the Lambs reference, which is like so in your face, it's kind of crazy. The mayor or the major in the first movie that kind of ends up in prison is like in a orange jumpsuit. It's so hilarious. Then they do a That'll Do Pig, That'll Do reference from Babe. And there's also Burning Mammal, which is like Burning Man. And there's also like a Hungry Hungry Hippos reference during the chase in the Marsh Market, which is also really funny. There's also one other reference. The cantina scene from Star Wars is also referenced in a very similar way to kind of how it looks like in Mos Eisley. And this is only some of the actual references that this movie has. Some people say there might be a Mission Impossible reference, which wouldn't surprise me, and part of the music really did sound like it was from Mission Impossible. And other things like the National Treasure movies, or Lilo and Stitch, and so many other little things, not even mentioning all the things that are like made into animal-related things, like the Roaring Stones, or Zulu for Hulu. Honestly, I've liked a lot of bit different things like that. It's part of what makes this movie fun is how cool it is when it comes to all of that different, like making everything into zoo references and stuff is really, really cool. So thank you all for watching. I hope you liked. I hope you've liked the video. I hope you like and subscribe. I really appreciate you all very, very much for watching and everything you've done for me, the channel and all the podcasts. It appreciates everything to me. I've always wanted to make movies, and you, by watching a video, listening to a podcast, watching a short film, that always makes me one step closer, and I really appreciate that. So if you want to, you can follow us on Instagram. It is @MediaByteCompany, and TikTok is @MediaByteCo. Patreon is for ad-free podcasts, commentaries, and a bunch more fun stuff like that. On the podcast network, we have Diary of an Indie Filmmaker, Slash It, and Exploring Cinema. That's it for today. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.